Hello, I'm Caz Mockett from BlockHead UK, and this is my rather outsized tiny town called Micropolis.
What can you tell me about this?
Well, it's built around the Micropolis standard, which was invented in about 2008 by members of Twin Lug in the USA, and it was meant as a collaborative standard so that people could build individual bits separately and then bring them to shows and put them all together like this. It's based on a 16 by 16 plate, which gives you effectively a quarter of one of the blocks that you see here. The specification defines where the roads and the pavements need to go and the little white crosswalk pieces, and apart from that you can do whatever you like in the rest of the space.
So it's a bit like a modular, the big modulars.
Yes, that's right, yes indeed. So I have lots of different ideas, as you can see, and every a week or so goes by and I think, I haven't built a Micropolis thing today, so I'll go and rummage around in my parts drawer and see if I can find something interesting. It's often just one particular part that will seed an idea for me. So with these pentagonal shapes here, it was the ball joint, the mixel ball joint, which is basically a ball at one end and a socket at the other. Mm-hmm. And I decided to put 5 of them together, top and bottom, and I got this pentagonal shape out of it, and then joined them together with plates and tiles. So that's how you get weird shapes out of Lego.
It's always nicer to have weird shapes than always square shapes.
Yes, it is a bit tricky, isn't it, sometimes? Then I've taken the odd set that Lego have produced, like the Wall of China here, 2 sets there, and I've joined them together and made a road underneath so that it still fits the standard. So some of the architecture sets are exactly the right size vertically, because there's also a vertical specification for Micropolis. It's equivalent to 1 brick and 1 plate, roughly speaking, is about normal for a floor. So if you stick to that and then build all of the things to the same vertical scale as well, then they look good in proportion to each other.
And is this all your collection to date, or do you have more?
There's about 6 more blocks at home, partly because I couldn't bring it all in the car. The car was absolutely full. And also I decided that some of the older modules that I brought last year would stay at home, either that or they were a bit fragile, so I decided that they'd be best left on my shelf rather than having to put them back from 1,000 pieces when I got here.
So which is your most unusual one that you've got here?
Most unusual? There's a question. Possibly the one that's just behind the big blue thing here. It's supposed to be the other thing I do is make up little stories for each of these things on my YouTube channel when I've built one, and as well as showing it off, I explain the story. And this one is called Venom Security, and the residents think it's just a high-tech security firm, but in fact it's the equivalent of MI5 spying on the residents, and they don't know anything about it.
Hence all the satellite.
Indeed, yes, but they just think this is normal for their life, so you know. And then this one down here, the black and gold monstrosity, is called Trumped Up. It's the headquarters of the Trumped Up Corporation. No relation to anybody living or dead, you know.
Of course not.
Because that would be wrong. But yeah, so you know, there's all sorts of little stories going on. The Trumped Up Corporation is fairly corrupt, and it sort of has various other businesses in their pocket, if you like. This is one of my newer modules here called City Hall. The residents come up with silly names for things as well, and that one's going to be called the Donut by them, I suspect, because of the large hole in the middle. And we've got lots of different sorts of accommodation. There's a luxury hotel here, which is very swanky, right next to the airport, so it's a bit noisy at times, but you know, things get moved around anyway when I'm setting up for different shows, so they don't always stay in the same place.
And looking at the Lego building here, obviously it's a perfect time to mention the fact that you're going to be displaying some of these.
I am indeed, yes.
At the Lego house.
At the end of March, I got a wonderful surprise email that said, we'd like to invite you to display some of your Micropolis in the Masterpiece Gallery, which is the brick right on top here, if you go to the real thing. So I'm taking about 6 of these blocks to Billund in September, the end of September, set them up, and they'll be in the Masterpiece Gallery for a year, 12 months. So I'm absolutely delighted about that, and completely surprised and still in shock about it all, really.
That is fantastic news.
Yeah. That again is an example where one of the official Lego sets from Lego House, in fact, worked really brilliantly for Micropolis, exactly the right kind of size, and all I did was add it to a Micropolis base plate, put some landscaping around the edge, and it fitted really well.
Oh, this is one of my favourite. Has to be. It's about classic space museum of sorts.
It is the Air and Space Museum, yes, and that's quite an unusual one in that most of the blocks I just fiddle with bricks and start building things. This one I saw the shuttle and the booster tanks are actually from the Women of NASA set, and I knew they'd be exactly the right size for an Air and Space Museum in Micropolis. So I based the whole design of this around those two bits and did it in Lego Digital Designer. Quite unusual for me, as I say. I normally just play with real bricks and see what happens, but I built this digitally first and then had to spend a small fortune buying the bricks I'd chosen.
Is it because of the trans yellow ones? Because those are...
Partly those, and also you wouldn't believe how expensive the blue ones with the texture on the side are. And there weren't that many in the UK, so I had to have orders from various European countries to get what I wanted. So,
Well, I guess like all of us, you don't really want to think how much money you spent on it.
no, don't ask that. That's a secret, even from myself.
Even from yourself, yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, this is absolutely fantastic. Thank you for spending the time to talk to me about your creations.
That's a pleasure. Thank you for asking me.
Good luck displaying this at the Lego House.
Yes, thank you very much indeed.